Today we are going to learn about the 2-3 zone defense. When we think of the 2-3 zone, the first name that comes to mind is Jim Boeheim, the head coach at Syracuse. This is a defense that he has used virtually his entire career, and it's a defense that he's always believed in. When we talk about his philosophy a little bit about the zone, he talks about how important it is to believe in your system, and you definitely see that when you watch Syracuse play because they constantly play a 2-3 zone and they're completely committed to it. Jim Boeheim's philosophy of the 2-3 zone, he feels the 2-3 is the best way to win games. He still spends time on man to prepare his team offensively for man defense. He doesn't spend much time in practicing the zone. When we go over some drills that you can do to practice the zone, you'll see why you really don't have to spend that much time on the zone. And like I said just a few minutes ago, you have to believe in your system. And he truly believes that. I think that's so key as a coach. It doesn't matter what you run offensively or defensively. There's many ways that work. What ultimately comes down to is how you believe in your system. If you believe in it, then it's going to carry over to your players believing into it. Why should you play a 2-3 zone? Personally, I think it's effective versus a poor shooting team. Whenever we're about to play a team and I notice they don't have too many good shooters, we're definitely going to that game thinking about playing some 2-3 zone. The one thing, too, is that I like to use it if you're getting hurt with dribble penetration. Oftentimes during a game, if I find myself saying we're having a hard time guarding them or that you can't keep them out of the paint, a lot of times we'll end up going to a 2-3 zone to kind of stop that. The keys to success: you need to talk. You absolutely have to defend the three. When I heard Boeheim speak, he's talked about you have to know who shooters are. And I'll show you some clips where Syracuse defense knows exactly who the shooters are and how they guard them. For non-shooters, you can play off a little bit and play about 1.5 arm lengths off. And what's so key then, too, is when you're playing a non-shooter is not only can you play off a little bit, you can play the passing lanes. Everyone in the zone has to have hands out, and they need to anticipate passes for deflections. So that's one of the things. When you go against a good 2-3 zone, the defenders are really anticipating those passes. They're getting hands on balls and getting deflections, which lead to turnovers. It's so important for everybody in the zone to play up. I'll show you some clips of how Syracuse plays up and why that's so important. What that does then, it forces the offense to throw behind the zone. And if you have a lot of length, like Syracuse does, that's really difficult to do. Finally, on each pass, everyone has to move on the pass. Here's the basic setup of the zone. So we have our guards up top, our forwards up top, our center in the middle. Notice how everyone is playing up. The guards are up above the free throw line. The forwards are up nearly to the three-point line. Even the center is up. He's not sitting underneath the rim. The really key point here is that the guards, when they have their hands out, they should be touching. So that when the ball's up here, that pass isn't getting to the high post. Most teams against the zone will set up in a 1-3-1 set. So the person at the top, player on each wing, someone in the high post, someone in the short corner. Again, these guards need to have their hands touching when their hands are out so that ball doesn't get into the high post. It's also important to here that the center finds that player in the short corner and cheats over to him just a little bit to discourage that pass. The biggest thing you'll have to practice when you play the 2-3 zone is the guard forward bump. So on a pass from the top to the wing, the forward will guard him to defend the three. But the guards here are responsible for everything on the wing, and the wing is foul line extended. So the guard takes everything on the wing except for the corners. When the forward comes up, they come up on the baseline side, funnel that into the middle, and then the guard bumps the forward back. And then the guard is playing that passing lane towards the top. The key teaching point that I use with my teams is when the forward gets bumped, I tell them to glance their head, so they're going to turn their head to the outside to look to the corner, short corner. Because if they know where their player is, then they can get into that passing lane and anticipate that pass. The guard at the nail needs to come over and be in the high post. He's playing on the top side of this guy with his hand in his chest to discourage the pass. Sometimes the defender will get underneath, and that's bad because if the pass would come back from the wing to the top, this guy can easily screen him and he's getting a wide open shot. So it's important that this guard here is on top. Finally, the help side forward goes to the block, and then the center will cheat over to the guy in the short corner or the guy in the block and have a hand in his chest to discourage it, or just play topside on him. When the pass goes back from the wing to the top, it's very important that this guard right here, he needs to get bumped by the other guard. So he needs to pause for about a second before he comes out here and guards it, so that this guard can come back and discourage the pass in the high post. Once he does that, he can come out and guard it, and then it's so important again for the forwards to get up so that pass cannot go to the wing for an easy three. When the ball's in the corner, forward will take him. The guard here can be in the gap. Sometimes I think a much better option is for him to deny this pass here. Because when he denies this pass here, it makes this guy have to throw up here to the top. And that's a long pass, and that is going to be a little worrisome for this player because he knows that this guy can get there on that time. So a lot of times I feel like denying the pass out of the corner is a really good option.
Trapper taking nothing but threes. I think you want to go inside against the zone.
The zone here. So starting up, you see how high the guards are up for Syracuse and how high the forwards are up nearly to the wing. And again, like I said before, the center is underneath the rim. He's playing up as well. Two guards should be having their hands touched and allow that pass into the high post.
Work from the inside out. So far.
Pass from the top to the wing. Forward will come up baseline side. And remember, now this guard is going to come over and bump the forward. Remember, the teaching point that I use is, remember, when he gets bumped, if he would glance to this corner, short corner, he would see this guy and then be able to discourage that pass.
Oh, the Tar Heels have done that.
This guard here, he's defending the high post. Weak side forwards on the block and help. And then the center is guarding the low post.
Syracuse, the team 18-9 coming in, 9-5 in the conference, short of a horrific collapse, soon to be an NCAA tournament team. They can't get that one to go. They rank.
Another play.
Two reinforcements make that three.
The bump. Guard's coming over.
In the game.
This guard, you can see he's guarding the high post.
And he hasn't played in a couple of games, so I think that shows you the
another bump. Forward coming up baseline side. Guard takes him.
The kind of trouble that the fouls to Pascal Chukwu have caused for Syracuse. They're not as long with that 2-3 as they once were, but Sidibe does help in that regard. Little drives in, and that's going to be. He was fouled, although it would have been a little bit of our friend Bill Raftery's nickel dimer effect had it been called.
Here, the guards should be touching hands, put their hands out so that pass doesn't get the high post. Forwards need to be up. Guard forward bump. Forward comes up and bump. He knows there's someone in the corner, so he needs to play that pass.
Yeah.
Guard the ball in the corner. You can see this guard is denying this, make it tough. We really put this guy in a tough spot as if this guy was here in the high post, not to give him an outlet.
No question, it was a trap. Little in traffic. Rejected. Nice work by Hughes. Really elevated.
Here's another clip that shows the guard forward bump.
And both teams are suddenly up.
Last two games, averaging 28, 12 rebounds, 7 assists.
So again, on this pass from the wing to the top, this guy who's guarding the high post, he needs to wait for a second for this guard to get in there. This guard should pass the high post, and these forwards need to get back up. Because like when this guy would leave, he can just throw it right back for a shot. So it's so important for the forwards to be up.
He's been spectacular, and he's such a good guard rebounder.
Elbow jumper, Jones off the back of the island. Good rebound by Delorier, and then Dolezaj. And it's a quick 5-0 start for the Cuse. And you can't turn the ball over against Syracuse. They sometimes struggle in a half-court set, Tim, but they are very, very good when they can get out and go. That has been their problem. The inability to find anyone to help Tyus.
And here the ball goes into the corner, short corner area. So the center will come over here and stunt, and then the forward is getting there. We'll go over that here in a second. If the forward gets there, and now this guard needs to be on top of this high post to discourage that pass.
Finding not just the third score, but even a second score. Jackson.
So where can you hurt a zone? When you get the ball into the high post and to the short corners. So here, when the pass goes into the high post, the center has to come up and defend that player. So whenever the center comes up to defend the high post, the forwards absolutely have to dive down and take away these two passes. Then the guards spider out and get a man. So now the defense has become a man-to-man defense. When the ball gets into the short corner, this is very similar to the clip we just saw. So the forwards come, so the center has to come here and stunt. So a stunt is a hand and foot fake. And then when he gets bumped off here, he's going to play the passing lane for the guy diving. So the forward will get here and take that and bump him off. Again, this guard is on top of the high post. Oftentimes you'll see this guy dive, so he stays on top of him. If need be, this forward who's in help, if he starts to dive because the center's over, he needs to come over and help. So let's watch that clip again that we just watched.
And it's a quick 5-0 start for the Cuse.
And you can't turn the ball over against Syracuse. They sometimes struggle on a half-court set, Tim, but they are very, very good when they can get out and go.
That has been their problem. The inability to find anyone to help.
And here comes the ball to the corner. The center is going to stunt at him. This guard needs to be here, looking on the dive, and this forward has to get over here and help as well. So the center takes it. Forward's going to bump him off. Great help by the forward over here.
Regular basis, finding not just the third score, but even a second score.
Here's another clip where they get it into the
Clock expired. James Breeding isn't going to be swayed by that argument.
And here the center comes and takes it. Forward's going to bump him off. This forward here on the block, he's going to help on the dive. Does a great job in this clip, taking that away. Bump the center off.
Whenever the ball goes in the middle, Syracuse is going to have to do a good job fanning out the shooters.
So where can you hurt a zone? You get the ball into the
Shane
high
Brissett,
post.
top rebounder on this Syracuse squad. I've been a little surprised. Right before the season, Jim Boeheim was saying,
Remember, center takes. Forwards need to dive down here and take anybody on the blocks. Guards need to spider out.
just how great he was playing, and he's played consistent this year. Hasn't shot the ball anywhere near
Another clip.
the rim. You have to get an awfully quick rotation down in order to keep Chukwu off the glass when his man goes to block a shot.
Center's guarding. The guards need to find a man. This forward's going to dive down and take this right here.
Try Key now in that position to build a zone, and then Hunter there, Jerome there. Jay from the baseline.
Another clip.
Everything right now is off the dribble and shooting as a last resort for Syracuse. And they have been really difficult.
Center needs a guard. Forwards are diving down. Guards are finding a man.
Contested twos, and Duke has blocked 3 shots and challenged almost everyone.
One more clip.
Uses the window nicely, and it's a 9-point Syracuse lead.
Dolezaj usually doesn't take very many shots. That's really aggressive.
Center takes. This forward needs to dive down and take this. Guards need to spider out and find a man.
Play for him.
May. Chukwu.
Finally, we talked about one of the keys is knowing who the shooters
Set
are.
field goal percent.
This is a great clip of the Syracuse defense.
Yes,
Knowing
that is.
exactly who the
Chukwu.
shooter
That's
is.
just his 22nd. May
For Virginia, this player is a very good shooter.
field goal
So the guard comes out extremely high, knowing that he can shoot it from
here.
anywhere.
This is their 30th game.
You see here, it's not just the guard that knows that, it's also the forward. He's coming out extremely hard on him, making him put the ball on the floor.
The dribble. shot.
You have to know who the shooters are. There's not many breakdown drills you can do in the zone. I think the best drill that you can do is the 7-on-5 shell. So offensively, you'll have a player at the top, each wing, each corner. And you have an offensive player in the high post who can work elbow to elbow. And you have a player in short corner who can work short corner, short corner. The one thing is the offense doesn't look to score. They just move the ball around. The defense works on their rotations. What I like to do in this drill is I like to stand right here. I'll call for the ball, and then once I get the ball, I'll throw it right into the high post right away. So that way we work on the center, guarding it, the guard spiraling out, finding a man, and the forwards diving down to the blocks.